How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? I feel like it's been a really long time since we've done a non-post-game video on the channel, especially a hot takes video. I feel bad because ever since I started doing the broader NBA channel as well, I haven't allocated as much time to this channel as I did before, which I know I said I would always make this channel a priority, as Bulls basketball is truly my passion. So I'll try to ensure I get more content in there outside of just the post-game videos. Check out my NBA channel, by the way, and One Hoops if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But anyway, we are here to do a hot takes video where I feature and react to your Bulls hot takes. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to leave your takes in the comments below for future videos like this. But without further ado, let's get into some of these takes that you guys had. Also, a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, Established Titles, but more on that in a little bit. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Our first take comes to us from Ian Zamith. Zo's return won't make us that much better. It's going to mess up rotations. Dragic is going to have less minutes while he's bringing a well-needed spark from the bench, and we really don't know how good Zo is going to be after that much time not playing basketball. I think he should come off the bench at first when he's fully recovered. Well, I'll tell you where you're not wrong in this take, and that's that, yeah, we don't know what Lonzo is going to look like when he first comes back and just how rusty he'll be. Like you said, it's a long time away from the game of basketball, and any player being out that long is going to be a little rusty when they return. It's just a matter of how rusty are we talking about and how slow will it be to get him ramped back up again. And I said before, I really hope this isn't the case. But we honestly don't know if Lonzo is going to come back as the same type of player that we remember. I'm talking about ever. Keep in mind, this is the third surgery he's had on that knee over his career, two of which happened in the past year. Like, maybe I'm just scarred from Derrick Rose after he suffered multiple injuries and really never came back as the same player. Not saying Lonzo is on Rose's level before Rose got injured, just drawing the comparisons of young players suffering multiple injuries early on in their careers and really never looking the same after that. Again, I really hope that's not the case, but it is in the back of my mind. But where I do think you're wrong is that Lonzo's return will actually make us that much better. Like, if Lonzo comes back just as good as he was before, no, he for sure makes this team better. I'm not like some other Bulls fans who will say, well, you know, when Lonzo returns, we're a title team. No, Lonzo is not that much of a difference maker in the Bulls being a title team versus, say, a 6th seed in a first-round playoff exit. But Lonzo's impact on the court cannot be understated. With his ability to defend at the point of attack, defend, create turnovers, and get out quickly for easy transition baskets, his playmaking in transition, his court vision is better than anyone on the Bulls roster. And let's not forget that the Bulls, who aren't the best shooting team, they need shooters. Well, Lonzo is actually a great outside shooter, had the best three-point shooting percentage last season for the Bulls before he got injured. No, he definitely makes the Bulls better when he's on the court. Does it mess up the rotations? Yeah, sure it does. You're right. Dragic isn't likely going to be getting as many minutes as he's seeing now, but Dragic was also always the contingency plan. I would much rather have Lonzo back out there in the starting lineup and Dragic getting less minutes more than having that the other way around. Next, we've got SportsVids26. Patrick Williams will be averaging 15 points per game by the end of the season. But before I get into that, a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Established Titles. So I had this company reach out to me and ask if I wanted to own land in Scotland, which I thought was a little odd. Why would I want to own land in Scotland? Well, Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. It is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. And what you're looking at here is a title of land that I currently own in Scotland. Yes, I am now a landowner in Scotland, a lord, if you will. Title packs give you at least 1 square footage of dedicated land on a private estate. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of the land. Now, what's cool about this company and what they're doing is that they plant a tree with every order made and work with global charities, One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future, to support global reforestation efforts. It makes for a great last-minute gift. They even have couple packs that come next to my plot within a few miles of walking distance, depending on how many of you want to become a lord or lady. We can build our little Bulls Central kingdom. Get this, you can even add lord to your dating profile. Established Titles is actually running a Black Friday sale, plus if you use the code BULLS, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/bulls to get your gifts now and help support the channel. And I will leave all that information down in the description. Yeah, Patrick has been more aggressive. Yes, he's been scoring more points, but I can't see him finishing out the season averaging 15 points per game, partially because he got off to such a slow start. That's going to actually have an impact on his overall points per game for the season. He's currently only averaging 9 in the first 12 games of the year, so 70 games left to go, currently averaging 9. He'll have to average, I believe, a little over 16 or 17 points per game for the rest of the season to get to just 15 points per game for the year. So for context, Patrick hasn't scored more than 15 points at all in a game so far this season. With all the other scorers out there, I don't see him reaching that. I do think he'll average over 10 points per game by the end of the season, which his increased confidence and shot creating ability should get him there. Next, we've got Muds, I don't know what that is, but they say start Drummond over Vucevic. It's funny because if you saw my interview with Sam Smith right before the start of the season, he actually said the Bulls should start Andre Drummond over Vucevic, even though they would never do it, to give some added defense in the starting unit, while Vucevic can actually add as that strong scorer off of the bench. And at the time, I thought that was a crazy take when I heard this from Sam Smith, but now, no, I'm kidding. I still think it's an insane take. Like, as much as I've loved Drummond for the Bulls, and he's already exceeding my expectations early with his level of production and fitting exactly what this Bulls team needs, he would not be better for the Bulls if he started over Vucevic. He's not a better player overall than Vuce is, and having Drummond in the starting lineup would clog up the paint too much for guys like DeRozan and Lavine, who either like to slash to the basket or operate in the mid-range. No, this would not be a good idea at all. Next, we've got local Bulls fan. He's got 2. 1, next season the Bulls will look like a title contender. 2, Iowa will finish the season averaging 15, 4, and 4. I'll start with the first one, which I'll say it's just way too early to be thinking about what the Bulls will look like next season, but I do sure as hell hope that by next year they'll be turning the corner into being a contender with all the moves that they've continued to make. Otherwise, what are we doing here if we're just continuing to be a middle tier team? As for Io, currently averaging 12.5, 4, and 3. Normally I would say yes, I can see this, but with the idea of Lonzo coming back hopefully in January, that would mean Io is likely going to see less minutes, less usage, less shot attempts, which in turn means lower numbers. So it's probably unlikely he'll actually finish out the season at 15, 4, and 4. Next, we've got Yehunda Dubovic. Really hope I pronounced that correctly, although I don't think I did. If the Bulls don't do well in the postseason, they'll trade DeMar for either young talent or a draft pick package to maybe the Jazz. Well, I don't see them making that kind of trade to the Jazz, although what the Jazz are doing is kind of unreal when everyone thought that this was going to be one of the top teams in the tank for Wembayama sweepstakes, which I'm sure Danny Ainge had in mind when he pulled the trigger on all those trades for Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and Bogdanovic. But even despite their early success, this team is still building for the future with all their picks, young players. I can't see them wanting DeMar DeRozan, especially when he'll be on an expiring deal. And for the Bulls, even if they do underperform, I don't see them moving DeRozan unless his value is crazy high or they receive some steal of an offer that they just can't refuse. Next, we've got Given. Dragic will be in front of Io in the rotation by the end of the season. I mean, by the end of the season, you would hope Lonzo is ahead of Io, not Dragic. But I get what you're saying, meaning, you know, when Lonzo comes back, Dragic will eventually be ahead of Io in the rotation. At least that's what I think you're getting at. And to that, I say no. Like, as good as Dragic has been and has been very productive of a player for the Bulls coming off the bench, Io is still a better player than Goran Dragic. And the Bulls aren't going to slow down his development by having him, you know, go from being a starter to effectively out of the rotation if you put Dragic ahead of him. Dragic isn't a part of the Bulls' long-term plans, while Io is. Next, we've got Iro. He's got 2. Trade Lonzo and keep developing Io. And 2, DeMar is hurting this team more than helping. Bad contested shots, horrible defense, etc. Wow. Playing with some fighting words there among the Bulls faithful, my man. I mean, I'll start with the first. Why trade Lonzo when his value is probably at an all-time low? He's coming off a major injury. Obviously, there are concerns about his long-term health in general, and he's suffering all these injuries only being 25 years old. To be different if he was 35 and you kind of expect it by that point. Yes, Io's development should be made a priority, but not at the expense of getting rid of Lonzo for pennies on the dollar when his value is still low right now. For the second take regarding DeMar hurting the team, look, what I'll say is, I see where you're coming from. There have been many games where I find myself getting frustrated with DeMar because he plays too much isolation ball. He slows the game down when things are working well in transition. And yes, we all know his defense is just okay. But no, DeMar is not hurting this team. DeMar's value is unmatched. Not only for his leadership skills for some of the younger guys, but also just the fact that he's a threat every night on the court for the opposing team. that it frees up opportunities for other guys when DeMar is being doubled. I mean, when you look at DeMar's on-court, off-court numbers, you see the impact that he has on this team, having one of the highest box plus minus on the roster. No, DeMar is not hurting the team. If anything, he's establishing a foundation for the future of the culture of this team as he heads closer to retirement. Next, we've got Andrew Lamping. Bulls will trade Vucevic before the end of the season because P. Will is going to take a leap and become the third scoring option by All-Star break, and they will focus on getting a rim protector. Well, I don't doubt the Bulls will try to go after some sort of rim protector by the trade deadline, but I can't see them trading Vucevic unless they really feel Vuce isn't going to re-sign with them when he becomes a free agent in the offseason, or say Vuce just really starts underperforming, becomes a liability for the Bulls, and the Bulls don't have any intention on re-signing him, so why not just trade him before losing him for nothing? But no, Vucevic has been playing well, and while you're seeing some improvement from Pat, I don't see him making that massive of a leap to where he's now the third scoring option over Vucevic. Next, we've got Ricky Davila. Bulls will trade for Anthony Davis, but have to give up Lonzo in return. Very hot take, but I don't see Anthony Davis going anywhere besides Chicago or the New York Knicks. Now, I know there have been some rumors swirling around the Lakers and that they may be looking to shop AD given their, in polite terms, a disaster at the start of their season, but honestly, what are they even going to get for Anthony Davis at his salary? His trade value is incredibly low right now on a high contract. He's even more injury prone than Lonzo Ball is. If I'm the Bulls, I just don't know if I want to even take that contract on, even if it is Anthony Davis. Now, if it really was, all you had to do was exchange Lonzo for AD, which couldn't happen because the money doesn't work, but hypothetically speaking, let's say that it did. I mean, for the Bulls, you'd have to at least be intrigued by making a swap for the two players with their low trade value, injury prone as well. The difference though is that Lonzo is younger. Anthony Davis is about to head into his 30s. For Lonzo, you'd have to assume he's more likely to recover and continue getting better when he does recover, whereas with Anthony Davis, it's very possible you might only see him decline from here on out. But if AD could get back to the player that he used to be when he was a top 10 player in the league, perennial all-star, all-NBA player, or even just 80% of what he used to be, and all you had to do was give up Lonzo Ball, I really like Lonzo, but it's Anthony Davis we're talking about here. Yeah, I think you would have to pull the trigger. The problem is you don't know what kind of Anthony Davis you're going to get. And on top of that, like I mentioned, the money wouldn't work. You would have to throw in additional pieces, players, draft picks if you're the Bulls. And at that point, it just doesn't make sense with the risk you're taking on by bringing in Anthony Davis. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end it there for this edition of Your Hot Takes. Keep your takes coming, and I'll try to get back to doing these on a more regular cadence. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.